today. Hopefully it'll be less of me talking, more of me demonstrating. I'll talk while I demonstrate, I guess. And then you guys getting a chance to try the exercises. I'll show like a base movement, and then I'll show ways that you can progress it. The goal is for you to make sure that you can master or feel strong doing that first movement before you move to the next one, okay? So that's the goal. Honor your body where it's at. Don't worry about the people around you. We all come in at different levels. But this gives us an opportunity to really like break it down so you know when you're doing movements out there or in your activities of daily living that you're doing them properly and engaging the proper muscles to do that. If that makes sense. Cool? Does that sound good? Awesome. Okay, and then we also wanted to kind of introduce our workshop series. It's a goal to have them quarterly. It just, again, gives us an opportunity as instructors to address maybe challenges that we see with movement in classes, out on the fitness floor. Again, just really breaking it down. And why the core? Because honestly, the core is involved in everything that you do. It is like our foundation. Like when we twist or like pick things up, activities of daily living that way, when you're seated or standing, when you're at work, like it is involved in everything. So we really just want to break that down first for you, and that's why we chose this workshop, okay? Then I also will have, like I mentioned, a handout that I'll for sure give to you guys at the end, so just remind me if I forget. But a couple of common causes of like back pain and the weak core that you'll see. So sometimes when we have a weak core, when we find that the core is weak, you will see it in ways where you'll tend to move like round forward. So like if you're sitting at your desk, I'm just gonna chair up here. Usually I have one, but so like if you're slouched, or like for a squat, for instance, when you're doing a squat, if your core is a little bit more weaker, you tend to lean forward while doing the squat when we really want you to stay more upright. Okay, so that's like a way that the core can tend to be weak because it's not supporting you from keeping that upright posture. Okay, what's some other ways that we see it? Especially with weak core comes compensation. So that's another thing that we see a lot maybe in classes where if you're not supported here, then you might be like shifting your weight over to one side. And I also want to address too that the core is not just your front side like your abdominals. It is here, it is your obliques, inner outer thighs, and glutes. Okay, so that leads me to my next point, is sometimes weak glutes can avoid, or like can help, not help. Weak glutes can sometimes like we don't feel supported like a squat, let's say. So like when you're doing that squat, and if your core or weak glutes are here, then when we come here, you might see your inner thighs buckle a little bit because you really want to squeeze your glutes to bring you upright, okay? So it's not just front side, it's the back side too, okay? Then this is a corporate environment, right? So let's say you're seated at work, okay? Are you slouched when you are seated? So if you see me like here, pretend I'm sitting more, so using your core to stand up, like not stand up, but upright posture, to lift here and then engage your shoulder blades. That's something that I want you to like take from class today and kind of just assess yourself this week. What are certain patterns that you have when you're seated at your desk? For instance, I like to sit at the like edge of my seat. I don't know, I sit in the back because I'm a little shorter. Or I know we have a lot of standing upright desks as well, which is great for standing because I know sitting can really take a lot of stress on the hip flexors because again, your body isn't made to sit. But when you're standing, you stand like this, right? Or Kendra and I were just talking, like sometimes we sit on one leg, not a good habit, right? So again, always want to think about that upright posture, and all again stems from your core. So I wanted to address some of that stuff before we get into the exercise movements. We're going to start on our backs first. Let me grab. So this is a really neat test that Kendra and I discussed. Would be good because we can talk about it throughout classes, but until you actually again get to apply it a little bit further, would it be helpful for me to face this way, or are you?
I'll figure it out.
You'll figure it out. You'll move around me. Okay, so the first one that we're going to do is I'll have you guys take your towels, and I'll have you stay seated for a second so you can see these before we get into doing the movements. So what you're going to do is you're going to come to your back, like so, on your back, knees bent. Okay, so we're going to work some pelvic tilts. So first, I want you to just slightly like tuck your pelvis this way so that you feel this like little space right here, and then you're going to intentionally press your abdominals down so that now your pelvis tucks this way versus this way. So think about as if you could stamp your belly button into the mat. Then the towel test. If you are engaging your core to press down, you shouldn't be able to pull that towel out from underneath you, okay? This is level 1. Then I'm gonna explain the next one, then you guys can apply it. We'll give like a minute or two to like each like progression if we wanna get there. So then if you can maintain this, then you're going to try to alternate your knee lift by keeping that press against the towel. Next one from there, you're gonna need to like hold it like this. So just be mindful of your shoulder there. Then maybe you lift both knees. Now you can see it shaking a little bit. Okay, that's the next one. Still trying not to let that towel come loose. If again you feel strong doing that and you're able to maintain that, next one, longer lever, one at a time. Okay, you could also bend the knee here a little bit as well. Final one, I was practicing for this one. Okay, so as both come down, like again, you're just push, 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 but it's starting, like I can barely get my legs somewhat hovering there without letting that towel slip. So those are the different progressions there. I forgot to mention ways that you can challenge the core that you'll find and you'll see in these progressions is adding weight, so like the dumbbells, changing lever length, which you just saw in that pelvic tilt, right? Knees are down, now knees are lifted, now legs are straight. That gets harder that way, right? Different planes of motion that you'll see that'll offer in some of these movements as well, okay? So, I want to give it a try. So, first of all, let's start right at the base first, just getting used to, go right ahead. Now make sure it's long, and you can have like it out one side, and feel free to armpits, okay? And you're gonna engage your glutes so this is really good for low back strengthening. Again, especially when we have a weak core, we can tend to see a lot of low back pain in individuals. So you're gonna actively press your hands into the mat. You're gonna like retract your shoulder blades, which just means that if I had like a tennis ball in between my shoulder blades, I could like wrap my shoulder blades around the tennis ball. Okay, so I'm here, roll the shoulders down and back, and lift up. And then go to your degree of this one. So try not, like, don't force it. Doesn't have to be this huge arch in the back here. Actively pressing your palms down, pressing the tops of your feet down. This will serve you as well in plank. When we like engage our quads in plank, that'll serve you there. So we'll start with Cobra as your first one. Then we're gonna move into some Superman variations. So here you wanna keep, this will come into play with plank as well, but sometimes you'll like see lifting of the head here. Keep everything in this nice long line. And then it's opposite hand and foot lifts. Okay, so I'm using my glutes here to lift my leg, my upper back muscles, alternating. Next one, again, more like levers together, hands and feet, or arms and legs. Exhale, lift, inhale, lower. Final one here is you can do some hold or swimmers, okay? Or you can add little lat pull downs here as well. But again, you want to maintain the retraction of the shoulder blades, the engaged glutes. Okay, so that again is going to strengthen our low back, which strengthens our glutes, which helps our core. Okay, so if you want to join me, you can join me now. Plank. If you feel strong doing regular on the toes right away, you can certainly do that. So with plank, think about going back to those pelvic tilts of that core engagement, like I said, with pulling the belly button into the spine. The back should be nice and flat here. Other things that you can tend to see is lifting again the head, so just be mindful that it should be a long line there. Some things that we've noticed too lately is, and I've been guilty of this, where you like, dear Lord, please let it be over, right? So like 11 position with the hands. Because what happens with that is now we tend to like round through our shoulders, and we don't want to see that, right? So now what we just kind of did with the back extension, like you kind of want to keep your chest open and then squeezing your shoulder blades. With that Cobra too, like pressing down into those palms, okay? So I'm here. Then next one would be up on the toes. Other things that we want to do or look at is alignment. So shoulders should be over the elbows. The block I brought into play as, so like with pelvic floor, when you squeeze something in between your thighs, it automatically helps to engage, like to feel that core engagement that you had on your back with the pelvic tilts. So when we work different plank variations, sometimes we have our feet a little bit wider, but for this example, your feet can be just about hip width distance, squeezing the block in between your thighs, and just see how that changes things when you get to this one, okay? Now, the last couple of ways to progress this would be if you're on, get rid of the block, that might be tricky. So you're here, you could lift your feet. If you're on knees, you can also kick back here. But what we're looking for there is that like your hips aren't rocking side to side. You want to keep them nice and level. Another one, if you're on your hands, still want to keep your joints stacked. So sometimes when we get fatigued, we start to lift the hips. Try to keep them stacked right here, and then you can work shoulder taps. But again, these are those higher progressions where you want to make sure you feel strong doing those first couple ones before you get to that. Other ways is, again, to challenge your core is to add an unstable surface into it. So if you're here, knee plank, harder with a longer lever, plank here on the ball, right? You can start to work, some of those, but again, we want to make sure you feel strong doing those other ones, okay? Yeah, I think I'm going to start from this position. So, different levels of side planks, because again, with our core, we want to work obliques, because that's just part of our core as the front or back is. So, a couple things to note is stacking of joints once again. So shoulders right over the elbow, and feel free to like move yourself in classes or when you're working out on your own to have a mirror so you can check this alignment. So knee down first, okay? You can have your hand up here. Other things that we may tend to see. Shoulders rounding, so like you might be here, like here. You want to keep your chest nice and open. Like I always kind of give the imagery of like if you're in between two pages of a book or a window pane, like it should be this long open side. Then next thing you'll see is the head starts to come forward. Again, everything should stay in that nice long line. Last one to note, sometimes this hip wants to come over. Again, try to keep it stacked, okay? So those are just some like alignment things that we want to see. So here's knee down, longer lever, legs staggered, harder, legs stacked, okay? Harder yet, if you feel strong doing the other ones, is lifting a leg, okay? Again, that's gonna work outer thighs and glutes with that one as well. Last variation would be, if you want to try it, is to throw again an unstable surface. So it would be first one down. You can work some inner thighs here by pressing the foot into the ball. Check your alignment once again there. Check that you're open. Last one that's a lot more challenging would be to engage the inner thighs and then lifting up. But again, see how like it can be really wobbly. So you want to try to keep everything nice and stacked once again. Okay, so those are the different progressions. Let's try side planks. So I want to make sure that you're like somewhat like even on sides. So I'll like keep a little your shoulders, heels close to the glutes as possible, hands down at your side, and then you're pressing the hips up. And then, so sometimes I'll work like reps up and down, or if you want to just work on that isometric hold, you can do that as well, okay? So a couple things to note, like sometimes you'll see like a hip drop, okay? So try to keep the hip, like if you had like a dowel or like a bar or something on your pelvis here, it shouldn't be rocking. It should be nice and level, okay? And again, another thing that I'll note, this is what I was gonna say with planks. I knew it was gonna come back to me. Try not to grip the mat while you're doing. So I always say like no death grips, okay? Hands should be flat, because then that would like be helping you essentially. So like press the heels down, feel the hamstrings and glutes engaged here. Okay, so that's your first level. Then you can start to work with alternating knee lifts. Okay, so kind of similar to the ones, but now your glutes are lifted. And you try to do that without letting that hip drop, right? So keep them level once again. Then from there, the next option would be again like more like holds, where you can lift up and down. Or some other things that with challenging the core is like different tempos, so like pulses or time under tension is gonna be a little bit harder as well, okay? Sometimes you can even do these where the glutes or quads are level here too, and just holding, okay? So there's that. Then adding weight would be like to hold, again, if you feel strong doing the other ones, holding a weight on your hip and working those reps or holds. And then that last variation, unstable surface once again. Knees stacked over hips, hands flat on the mat, lift up and down. But now again, you have something that's moving underneath you, so it's going to be even more of a challenge. Okay, so let's have you guys give it a shot. Doing a lunge, okay, a lot of things are working, but your glutes are engaged here, okay, slight tuck of the pelvis just slightly. Another thing that we're looking at with alignment, so remember when I said way back in the beginning of how sometimes when we have a weak core, we tend to lean forward. We see that a lot with lunges. So you want to keep an upright posture, okay, so we lunge, so lunge here, then to add the knee drive for balance, because whenever we balance in classes or in movement, you're engaging the core, because again, things have to, like your body's just like a pulley system. So you go lunge, you can tap, then knee lift, okay? Or if you got that master, lunge right into that knee drive. Still want to, again, keep that upright posture. Knee doesn't have to touch the floor here, okay? Now, other things with like standing, like remember that little like hip. So again, when you do that knee drive, like make sure that everything's still level when you're doing that. Then, other ways to challenge the core, tempo. So then, this is going to challenge balance a little bit more, but then you add it more like a quicker, you could do a calf raise, or add that hop, like so. Changing the lever, lunge, kick through. Now that straight leg is going to challenge the core a little bit further to give that leg up. But again, it shouldn't be like a swinging motion to do that. It should be all intentional through the core. Next option is to add weight. So if you have dumbbells, same movement, lunge, tap, knee drive, or again go balance, knee up, like so. Okay, lunge, knee drive. One more thing, with the planes of motion, so we have, I didn't explain this in the beginning, but you have a sagittal plane of motion, which just means like a forward and back motion. Frontal is side to side, and then you have transverse, which is everywhere you cross the body. So it's great to work those 3 planes of motion because, again, activities of daily living. Like you just do that, but you probably don't even realize it. So then lunge, knee drive, twist. A little bit harder. Lunge, knee drive, twist. It's just another option. Cool? Let's try it. So first, prove this. Say, sometimes we see that leaning, so it shouldn't look like this, right? So think of that upright posture. You can have your hands here. You might be holding weight eventually, but sit back, weight in the heels, knee over the ankle, okay? And then you think about like I press my heels into the floor, and then I'm engaging my glutes as I come to stand. So I'm actually getting both ways, like front and back. So inhale, lower, exhale, up. Okay, you can do that there. You can go a little bit quicker, okay? You can add some hops there as well. Then we add the knee drive again to add a little extra core and balance. Squat, come up, lift the knee. This is another one again where you be mindful of like you're shifting your weight here, but think about when you walk all day long, you're shifting your weight side to side, right? So you still want to make that core engagement there. Side to side, like so. You can add that twist again, squat, come up, twist, working those different planes of motion. And then, again, adding weight is another option to that, okay? So similar to the lunge, but a lot more with like, posture here can be a little bit more challenging. So as soon as, if you're coming down and you're starting to see, like feel your heels lift, shorten your range of motion. So we want you to keep more of that upright posture versus getting to that 90-degree bend in the knees, okay? Let's give it a try. You could use a stability ball. So with a wood chopper, you're going up like at an angle or diagonal. So you can be here. So you're doing that squat position, and then you reach up and over. Sometimes what I'll do is pivot on my back foot here too, okay? But you still want to be mindful that your knees are in line with your toes when you're doing that movement. Then, if you have a weight, squat, lift up and over. I still like to pivot just slightly on that foot, If you feel okay to come up and just twist that way, you certainly can. So I just went to a long lever there without shortening my lever. So you could be here and then reach. Harder for the core is to go all the way to that long lever, okay? You can also use a block too if you don't want to go for the weight right away too. You can hold a block doing that movement. Okay, so that's a way that we just want to work that transverse plane across the body to just, this is just a good like core strengthening move and stability work, okay? Let's try it.